Today we're going to replace the heater hoses on a 2002 Pontiac Grand Am SE 2.2 liter Ecotec engine. The two heater hoses are definitely different shapes. The heater hoses are down here between the firewall and the engine over on the brake side. They've got my favorite kind of clamps on there, which we'll have to get off. I'm going to start by taking loose this vacuum hose that goes over to the brake assist diaphragm. That'll just give us a little extra room to work around those clamps, and this is pretty easy to take off here. Okay, I've got that vacuum tube off, got my pliers in there. I was able to get the first clamp to come off of this hose, but instead of taking it up the hose, I took it down, and it's just laying loose down there around the metal pipe that comes out of the engine. So now this hose can come loose. And of course fluid's going to come out at that point. I got a pan underneath to catch it. Get on that hose with a pair of channel locks, wiggle and pull up, work that hose off the tube. Okay, now I'm going to work on these two bottom clamps down here. I've done my trick where I sprayed a little penetrating oil on there, and then I've tried to work that clamp around to where I can get my pliers on it pretty easy. I've got two clamps off, the closest clamps to me, one on the upper up here and one on the lower down here. Of course they're not the same hose, but when I did pull this hose off, quite a bit of fluid came out, so that's when you're going to get the drain of the fluid. Alright, I've got the first hose off. These hoses, they crisscross. So they don't go, you know, like the one that's closest to you doesn't go from the closest on the bottom to the closest on the top. So I've made myself some little notes. You might think you don't need them, but you never know when it's going to come in handy. When you got these two laying on the ground, you're like, ah geez, which one went where? And then I'm going to compare that to the hose that I got, the replacement hose. That is a Gates 19815. Looks like a match. It's been a battle, but I finally got that clamp there. Just a matter of, again, I lubricate the hose. You can usually then get the clamp to spin, get a little bit of a grip on it. Yeah, it slips off. You keep working and working and working. Finally you get lucky and that clamp comes up. I'd like to kick the guy in the balls who come up with those clamps. Jeez. After a little bit of a battle and the loss of a little bit of blood, I got that other heater hose off. It's real important, somehow or another you got to get on here with some pliers or channel locks and wiggle it to break it loose. And then the new hose appears to be a match. That is a Gates hose. Again, I've marked the hoses with you know, where they came from. This one was like the bottom. Was the bottom, was closest to me. I've got all the hoses off. I'm going to start by putting on the most difficult one first, back in here. I'm going to use that type of a clamp. I use just a little bit of radiator hose grease, get those hoses to slip on there easy. And maybe when the car is 30 years old, some guy will be taking them back off and he'll thank me. Got them all installed. Everything's tight. Vacuum line put back on. Now we'll refill with some antifreeze, 50-50 mix. Just remember that antifreeze is very toxic to animals, so you want to clean up any you spilled on the ground. Don't forget to slip the heat shield back on the heater hose, at least the one that's closer to the exhaust pipe. I'm using a stick here to kind of straighten it out so I can slide that sleeve over the top of the hose. Alright, after a little bit of backtracking to put that heat shield on, we're all done. We'll start it up, run it for a while, get it hot, then we'll top it off.